10 questions 28 years later can finally answer about Danny Boyle's universe. After 28 days later, redefined the zombie genre in 2002 with its terrifyingly fast, infected, and raw, apocalyptic tone, Danny Boyle's gritty universe expanded with 28 weeks later in 2007. Now, nearly 2 decades since the last film, 28 years later promises a return to the franchise's dark origins. While the upcoming film is shrouded in mystery, it presents an opportunity to finally address some long unanswered questions that have haunted fans for years. From the fate of key characters to the true extent of the rage virus outbreak, these are the 10 questions 28 years later can finally answer about Danny Boyle's universe. 1. Did the infection ever spread beyond the UK? 28 days later and 28 weeks later both take place in the UK, and by the end of weeks, the rage virus appears to reach mainland Europe, hinted at by a haunting shot of infected sprinting past the Eiffel Tower. 28 years later could confirm just how far the outbreak went. Did the virus become global? Or was it somehow contained before engulfing the world? This long-standing question will determine whether the new film is about a world at large in ruin or the last stand of surviving nations. 2. What happened to Jim, Selena, and Hannah? Jim Cillian Murphy, Selena Naomi Harris, and Hannah Megan Burns were the heart of 28 days later, survivors who found family amid chaos. While alternate endings suggested Jim might have died, the theatrical cut left them alive and hopeful. Did they survive the following years? Are they part of the resistance, or were they lost to the spreading virus? Cillian Murphy is rumored to return as a producer and possibly in a cameo, so this may be the perfect time to close their arc. 3. Did Andy and Tammy carry a cure or a curse? 28 weeks later ends with Andy and Tammy, the children of the infected but immune Alice, escaping by helicopter to Europe. Andy is shown to carry a form of immunity, infected through contact but not fully succumbing to rage. Are they carriers, potential cures, or dangerous vectors for reinfection? 28 years later could revisit these siblings now as adults. Their biology may hold the key to ending the outbreak or sustaining it. 4. Is the rage virus evolving? The rage virus is unique, not undead reanimation, but a hyper-aggressive infection. Its speed and simplicity made it terrifying. However, real viruses mutate. After nearly 3 decades, has rage become more contagious, harder to detect, or perhaps more intelligent? Maybe it now has a longer incubation period, turning the infected into silent threats. An evolved version could re-energize the horror and escalate the stakes, much like how The Last of Us introduced new fungal variants. 5. What remains of civilization? 28 weeks later hinted at NATO involvement and military attempts to reclaim territory. Did the world rebuild secure zones, or did those efforts collapse under fresh outbreaks? 28 years later could reveal a fractured geopolitical landscape, maybe fortified cities, warlord-ruled regions, or even a scorched earth where only nomadic bands survive. The state of society will define the tone: post-apocalyptic anarchy or a last chance for renewal. 6. Who controls the narrative now? Governments, scientists, or survivors? The previous films showed a lack of transparency and humanity from both military and scientific institutions. 28 days later's soldiers were predatory and self-serving. 28 weeks later's NATO-led effort unleashed another disaster. Who's left in charge now? Have scientists perfected suppression methods or vaccines? Is there a global government dictating survival policies? The movie could explore themes of trust, misinformation, and resistance, especially relevant in a post-pandemic world. 7. Was rage a natural virus or something engineered? Though 28 Days Later opens with animal rights activists freeing chimpanzees from a lab, the nature of the rage virus itself remains murky. Was it a lab accident or something designed as a bioweapon or psychological experiment? 28 years later could finally dig into the virus's true origins. An intentional design would reframe the franchise's horror from nature's chaos to human hubris. It could also spark a quest for justice, revenge, or redemption. 8. How has humanity changed, philosophically and morally? The earlier films suggested that humans could be just as dangerous as the infected. The soldiers at the mansion in 28 Days Later and the command center betrayal in 28 Weeks Later both highlight how quickly society's moral compass erodes. 28 Years Later is a chance to explore how people have adapted. Have they become more compassionate or more ruthless? Perhaps a new generation has never known peace, and their worldview is shaped by survival above all else. 9. Can rage be eradicated, or is coexistence the only path? Perhaps the biggest question is whether this story ends with a cure or an evolution in how humanity deals with rage. After 28 years, has the virus become too embedded to wipe out? Can infected be rehabilitated, or is complete extermination the only option? The film could tackle philosophical questions about the value of life, even in the infected, especially if variants retain some memory or humanity. It may become less about ending rage, and more about understanding it. 10. Does hope still exist in Boyle's universe? Both 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later end on uncertain but slightly hopeful notes. Whether it was Jim recovering with his found family or the kids fleeing to possible safety, the tone was never fully nihilistic. But after 28 years of devastation, can hope still exist? Is there a future worth fighting for, or is survival itself the only remaining purpose? This sequel can define the emotional heart of the trilogy, whether it remains a bleak cautionary tale or ends with a spark of optimism. Final thoughts. Danny Boyle and Alex Garland's return to this universe brings with it massive expectations. 28 Years Later doesn't just have to up the scale of horror, it has to deepen the world's lore, resolve lingering mysteries, and give fans a satisfying evolution of the story. These 10 questions are more than fan theories. They are the emotional and thematic threads that have held this franchise together for over 2 decades. If 28 Years Later addresses even half of them with the same boldness that made the original film a genre-defining classic, then audiences are in for something unforgettable. Whether it delivers closure, more chaos, or a new beginning, this long-awaited installment could redefine what zombie horror and post-apocalyptic storytelling looks like in the 21st century.